I'm going to talk about Twilight for a while, if that's okay with everyone. I'm not going to do a full-fledged rant on Twilight, I'm just going to talk about it. Number one, I think I have some new things to say, and not all of it is particularly anti or pro-Twilight, so it's not really a rant. Number two, my throat really hurts, as you can tell by my voice, so I don't have the energy to do a rant. Number three, the whole Twilight thing is a dying topic. I hate that about ranting, you know. I hate that everyone has to say the same thing everyone else already said. Of course, that's the big one, but most importantly, I hate that they have to be current and made quickly, because there's this tiny window of time when you're allowed to rant about a fad or a topic like that, and you blink and it's gone, and that's fucking stupid. You know, fuck that window. You should be allowed to do a rant on anything you want, regardless of when. You know, when it comes to ranting, it's not the when, it's the what. That's my philosophy, anyway. Like, I think someone could do a rant on something really passé, like the Spice Girls or something, and it could still be a good rant. It's possible. Skype is open, sorry. Anyway, here goes nothing. I actually have read the first book, and to put it bluntly, I thought it was fucking awful. Like, Stephenie Meyer has this thing where she's afraid to use normal words, like white is ivory, black is ebony, red is crimson, blue is sapphire, etc. And, I actually thought that it was kind of funny, you know, it's like, no one wears clothes in Twilight. Bella doesn't wear a jacket. She dons a jacket. Oh, you know, it's like Stephenie Meyer can't write unless she has a thesaurus next to her. And I learned how to write like that in 4th grade. I'm sorry, Stephenie, but no one is impressed by how well you can finger-fuck a thesaurus. And her writing style is so repetitive, too. She uses the phrase, pursed her lips, so many times in that book. If I read the phrase, she pursed her lips, one more time, I'm just gonna have to break something. Lastly, she's got these similes that make no fucking sense, like, Edward sat on the extreme of his chair and gave me an antagonistic glare, as if he smelled something bad. It's like the way she wrote all these similes make me want to die a little bit. I wouldn't be surprised if I came upon a sentence that went like, Edward carried me on his back as we rode through the night, his hair glistening behind him, like a truck. You know, it's just ridiculous. This brings me to Bella and Edward. I'm going to talk about Bella first, and my problem with Bella is that she's this perfect girl, you know. There's this one bit in the book where 3 boys, other than Edward, ask Bella to the school dance, all in the same day. Now, I'm not sure if Stephenie Meyer was trying to come off as funny or whatever, but the truth is it made me a little sick, you know. Whether she knows it or not, Bella is a perfect girl, and I don't want to read about the perfect girl. The perfect girl is boring. I want to read about a person with flaws, you know, someone with strengths and weaknesses, and someone who makes choices. Jesus Christ, you know. All the best stories are about people who make choices, and I didn't see Bella make a choice in the whole book. Like, everything just happens upon her. She gets dragged places and people tell her things. She's not proactive, she doesn't initiate anything, and she's got no personality whatsoever. Actually, the fact that she has no personality is for a reason. It wasn't a very good decision when it comes to writing, but when it comes to marketing, it was brilliant. Now, let me explain. Because Bella doesn't have a specific identity, it makes it easier for the vast array of girls who read Twilight to walk around in Bella's shoes. And that's the whole appeal of Twilight. It's written in first person for a reason, and that reason is so that everyone can be a Bella. You know, everyone can fall in love with the perfect guy, and everyone can live happily ever after, you know. So, Kudos to Stephanie Meyer for that, but the problem is, this isn't a love story. It's a lust story. You know, Bella only likes Edward because he's attractive. Never mind how abusive he is. Read the fucking book. It's awful how Edward treats her. It's stalking her, hurting her, forcing her to go places with him. That's not love. That's just twisted. You notice I haven't said anything yet about the fact that the vampires sparkle, and that's because the sparkling isn't the problem. I think a writer is allowed to take creative liberties, even with creatures like vampires or werewolves that are so embedded into our culture. I wouldn't be a Roald Dahl fan if I said that vampires are only allowed to be one way and one way only, because, for example, Roald Dahl wrote a book called The Witches, and in that book, the witches are nothing like how our culture sees them. They're completely different, and I think that is okay for a writer to do. I think that you can write a book about sparkly vampires and still make it good. I just don't think that Stephanie Meyer was right for the job, you know. You can have a terrible concept and still make it a good story if you get a talented enough person to write it. If you ask me, the main problems with the book are, first of all, the weird fucking language it's written in, and secondly, Edward and Bella's relationship. The sparkling vampires seem to be a big factor among people who haven't read the book, and that's because it's everywhere, you know. You don't need to read the book to know that Twilight has sparkly vampires, but to be honest, that's the least of the book's problems. There are so many other problems with the book, and that's why I encourage people who want to rant about Twilight to read it beforehand, because first of all, it's not going to hurt you in the long run, and secondly, you won't have to resort to doing one of those Twilight rants where you bitch about the fans the whole time, because that's not really a Twilight rant. That's a Twi-tard rant, and unfortunately, most Twilight rants are Twi-tard rants. And the only people I know of who did a legitimate rant on Twilight, like on the book, were T-Princes and Metroid Junkie. That's it, and it's kind of sad because everyone seems to hate this thing that they've never experienced, and it's happened with YouTube ranters time and time again. Like, everyone hates Naruto, they've never watched it. Everyone hates the Jonas Brothers, they've never listened to them. Everyone hates the thing that everyone else hates without giving it a second thought, and the truth is it wouldn't hurt you to do your research. And if you end up liking it, no one is really going to give a shit. Like, I'm not going to anyway. You can like Twilight, the Jonas Brothers, and Lucky Star. I'm not going to hate you for it. People only hate the fans that go absolutely apeshit about their fandom. Speaking of which, there is one last thing I want to mention before I end this video. TwilightSucks.com, particularly the Twi-tard attack stories on there. I think most, if not all, of them are fake. I'm sorry to say this, but this is what I believe. Now, for one, if you go on any sort of local news website and search for Twilight-related violence, you don't get these stories, you know. The only website where Twilight-related violence is found is on TwilightSucks.com. Type in Twilight attacks into Google. Everything that comes up simply links to that message board. And if you type in Twilight attacks news story, you get, like, Stephen King attacks Stephanie Meyer, author of Twilight, and it's like, whoa, that's the big attack, whatever. And I think if these issues were really occurring, you'd get other reports on other websites that aren't dedicated to hating the book. Now, I'm not ruling out that there might be one or two Twilight extremists out there, and I'm not ruling out that one or two of these stories might have occurred, but some of these stories are so far-fetched and so extreme, and all of them are on a website with an obvious bias. And I'm sorry, but I call bullshit. I'm not just gonna roll over when someone tells me to, you know? Anyway, I think I've rambled on for long enough. I'll see you guys later.